Mr. Speaker, sir, the House meets this Saturday to respond to a situation of great gravity. We are here because for the first time for many years, British sovereign territory has been invaded by a foreign power. After several days of rising tension in our relations with Argentina, that country's armed forces attacked the Falkland Islands yesterday and established military control.
How many planes joined the raid, but I counted them all out and I counted them all back. Their pilots were unhurt, cheerful and jubilant, giving thumbs up signs.
Has sent the following message. Be pleased to inform Her Majesty that the White Ensign flies alongside the Union Jack in South Georgia. God save the Queen.
What happens next, Mr. Knott?
Thank you very much.
What's your reaction,
Rejoice at that news and congratulate our forces and the Marines.
Are we going
Good
to
night,
declare war on
gentlemen.
Argentina?
The final bombardment brought the guns down to their last half-dozen shells. But short of ammunition or not, the British shells kept falling remorselessly until the Argentine line broke. An Argentine cameraman showed what it looked like on the receiving end.
The Argentine military say their commander on the Falklands has met the British commander there and agreed a ceasefire until 10 tomorrow morning. That's 2 o'clock.
There is a white flag flying over Stanley. Very marvellous.
And it's Great Britain. Marvellous forces, every single one of them. It's just been everyone together, and that's what matters. We knew what we had to do. We knew what we had to do.
So how do you feel about our vote?
Balloons and ticker tape thrown from the shore. Caps thrown from the ship.
The IRA bomb in room 629 had exploded as most of the 318 guests were asleep in bed. It ripped apart the top floors of the hotel and collapsed a 5-ton chimney stack that crashed down through the center of the building, all the way down 5 floors to the hotel reception. The scene outside the Grand was chaotic. The few police on duty tried to regain control as wounded survivors began to pour out of the front of the hotel. She insisted that the final day of the party conference should go ahead a few hours later as planned and on time. And knowing John Cole was outside, she was anxious to get that message of defiance across as soon as she could.
The special branch men were very unkeen for her to stand on the street doing an interview with me. I, needless to say, was very keen that she should, and so was she. She, having made her mind up to do it, she was determined to give full value.
The bomb went off somewhere between 2:45 and 3. I know that because I looked up when I'd finished something at 2:45, and I just turned to do one final paper, and then it went off. My husband was in bed, and all the windows went, and the bathroom was extremely badly damaged.
In your own room?
Yes,
In your room?
Yes.
I think that's enough. And the special branch men were sort of pushing her into the car, but she turned around and said, "Have you got all you want, John?" And your conference will go on.
The conference will go on. The conference, all right, John, the conference will go on as usual.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
Many of her party colleagues were still trapped in the rubble back at the Grand Hotel. Among them, Sarah Berry, Norman Tebbit, and
I think I heard it was probably the Tebbits being found above me, and I couldn't understand why they couldn't find me, and I was screaming and screaming and saying, I'm here, and nobody came. And then a fireman must have had a torch. He kept saying, can you see a light? And I couldn't see anything. And eventually he put his hand on my shoulder, and that was an incredible moment.
The IRA issued a statement saying they had planted the bomb, and it carried a chilling warning. Today we were unlucky, but remember, we only have to be lucky once. You have to be lucky always. Sussex police wanted Mrs. Thatcher to enter the conference centre by a back door, but at the last minute she insisted on using the front entrance in full view of the world. Her arrival was a moment of high emotion for her shell-shocked audience. Even the political journalists broke the habit of a lifetime. They stood and applauded her.
The bomb attack on the Grand Hotel early this morning was first and foremost an inhuman, undiscriminating attempt to massacre innocent, unsuspecting men and women staying in Brighton for our Conservative conference. Our first thoughts must at once be for those who died and for those who are now in hospital, recovering from their injuries. And the fact that we are gathered here now, shocked, but composed and determined, is a sign not only that this attack has failed, but that all attempts to destroy democracy by terrorism will fail.
Margaret Thatcher had turned the attack back on the IRA. She was still there, and stronger than ever.
They are desperately worried about poll tax, about the deepening recession, about the health service. They are worried about the educational system and about the whole Tory shambles. Will the Prime Minister indicate who she thinks should take a share in the blame for what is, after all, a Conservative mess?
Well, the Honourable Gentleman always was quite a good advocate. He could speak to any brief, and I don't believe he believed a word of that.
Mr. Speaker, may I pay tribute to the Prime Minister and to her decision this morning. She showed by that she amounts to more than those who have turned upon her in recent
No one in Eastern Europe believes that their countries would be free had it not been for those Western governments who are prepared to defend liberty, who kept alive their hope that one day East Europe too would enjoy freedom. But it was no thanks to the party opposite, nor to the campaign for nuclear disarmament, of which the Right Honourable Gentleman Sheldon is still a member. It is this government which kept the nuclear weapons which ensured that we would never be blackmailed or threatened. When Brezhnev deployed the SS-20s, Britain deployed the cruise missiles and was the first to do so. And all these things were done in the teeth of the opposition, of honourable gentlemen opposite and their ladies. The SS-20s...
being relatively much poorer, much less well-housed, and much less well-provided than it was in 1979. Surely she accepts that is not a record that she or any Prime Minister can be proud of.
Mr. Speaker, all levels of income are better off than they were in 1979. But what the honourable member is saying is that he would rather the poor were poorer, provided the rich were less rich. That way you will never create the wealth for better social services as we have. And what a policy!
policy. Yes, he would rather have the poor poorer, provided the rich were less rich. That is the Liberal policy. Yes, it came out. He didn't intend it to, but he did. The Honourable Gentleman.
Jim Siller's Scottish Nationalist.
The Prime Minister is aware that I detest every single one of her domestic policies, and I've never hid that. It's always a greater pleasure to tackle a political heavyweight opponent than a lightweight leader of the opposition.
Europe is strongest when it grows through willing cooperation and practical measures, not compulsion nor bureaucratic dreams. I give way to the Honourable Gentleman.
Alan Beath, Liberal Democrat.
Would you tell us whether she intends to continue her own personal fight against a single currency and an independent central bank when she leaves office?
No, she's going to be the governor.
On the present structure...
She's going to be the governor, said Dennis Skinner there. Mrs. Thatcher's laughing as well. Cheers are taken up by Conservatives, some of them.
Order. The Prime Minister.
What a good idea.
Comes up from Dennis Skinner.
I hadn't thought of it. But if I were, there'd be no European Central Bank accountable to no one, least of all to national parliaments. Because the point of that kind of European Central Bank is no democracy, taking powers away from every single parliament and being able to have a single currency and a monetary policy and an interest rate which takes all political power away from us. As my right honourable friend said in his first speech, after the proposal of a single currency is about the politics of Europe. It is about a federal Europe by the back door. So I'll consider the honourable gentleman's proposal. Now, where were we? I'm enjoying this.
Thatcher.
I'm enjoying this. Right.
Mrs. Thatcher relaxed.
Mr. Speaker, I was on.
You can wipe the floor with
I was talking about...
Conservatives shouting, you can wipe the floor with them. Astonishing performance by Mrs. Thatcher this afternoon.
Order!
We're all right! We're all right!
Presidente de la Nación, Leopoldo Fortunato Galtieri, los vítores son impresionantes de Argentina, Argentina, Argentina.
She is an enemy of apartheid.
Based on the career that I once had before this one, you are a very tough act to follow.
I stand before you tonight in my red star chiffon evening gown. Softly made up and my fair hair gently waved. The Iron Lady of the Western world. To those waiting with bated breath for that favourite media catchphrase, the U-turn, I have only one thing to say. U-turn if you want to. The ladies not for turning.